All right, so today we're going to really dig into Palantir
Okay.
and their AI ambitions.
Sounds good.
We're going to be looking at this interview that their CEO, Alex Karp, did with Fox Business.
Okay.
If you've ever heard Alex Karp speak before, you know that he is someone who does not mince words.
Right.
And he is very confident about Palantir's future in this interview.
Yeah, he definitely has a reputation for being outspoken.
Yeah,
And
opinionated.
yeah, and it's almost like he's positioning Palantir as kind of like a rebel in the tech world.
Yeah, like a bit of an outsider.
Yeah, like they're not just chasing the latest trends in Silicon Valley.
Right, they're focused on solving these big real-world problems.
Yeah, exactly. And they've had some really interesting wins lately.
Yeah, like what?
Like they joined the S&P 500.
Oh, wow.
Their stock prices soared like 93% since September.
That's huge.
Yeah, it's pretty remarkable. And a lot of analysts doubted their business model.
So it's like he's really enjoying proving those people wrong.
He definitely has that I told you so vibe.
But beyond just, proving the critics wrong,
Yeah.
I think he really is passionate about the problems they're tackling.
Yeah, he talks a lot about meritocracy and, American strength.
Right, like building products that actually make a difference.
Yeah, like they have a real mission.
And a key part of that is AI.
Right. AI is a big focus for them.
Yeah, and he sees them as being ahead of the curve on AI.
Like they knew how important it would become.
Yeah, for everything from national security to, optimizing like everyday business.
Yeah, it's not just a tech thing. It's impacting everything.
And he gets pretty specific about how they're using AI to make institutions more efficient.
So it's not just about automating tasks.
No, it's about really changing how these organizations work and make decisions,
Interesting.
like their work with Anthropic and AWS.
What's that all about?
So they're teaming up with them to give AI tools to U.S. intelligence and defense agencies.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it's all based on these large language models that can analyze huge amounts of data.
So it's like instead of analysts having to go through all this information manually
Exactly. The AI can do a lot of the heavy lifting, like identifying patterns.
and connecting the dots.
Yeah, and even generating reports.
Wow.
So the human experts can focus on the bigger picture.
That makes a lot of sense.
And Karp believes this can lead to better outcomes like in military operations or disaster response.
Yeah. It's about using AI to augment human capabilities.
He even suggests that AI could help bring soldiers home from conflict zones more quickly and safely.
That's a powerful idea.
And it's clearly resonating with investors, given how well Palantir is doing.
Yeah, they're definitely on a roll.
And he even brags about their Rule of 40 score.
Rule of 40, what's that?
So basically, it's a measure of a company's revenue growth and profit margin.
Okay.
And a score of 40 or above is considered really good.
Uh-huh.
Well, Palantir is a score of 68.
Wow, that's impressive.
Yeah, he drops that in there like a mic drop moment.
Yeah, like, see, we told you so.
And it's interesting because he also admires people like Elon Musk and Vivek Ramaswamy.
Who are also known for shaking things up.
Right, and he's fully on board with their idea of creating a government efficiency agency.
Oh, yeah, I've heard about that.
It's basically like a SWAT team for identifying waste and streamlining processes in government.
Interesting.
And this is where his emphasis on transparency comes in.
Okay.
He sees it as absolutely crucial, not just for government, but for rebuilding trust in institutions in general.
Like he thinks a lot of the systems have lost credibility.
Yeah, from the International Criminal Court to even the medical field.
Hmm.
It's a pretty provocative statement.
Yeah, it is.
But he seems to believe that technology, and specifically Palantir's technology, can be part of the solution.
So like using data and AI to make things more accountable?
Yeah, to shine a light on what's working and what's not.
That makes sense.
And that leads us to the more ethically charged side of their work, like their involvement in the military.
Yeah, that's where things get a little controversial.
Yeah, because he doesn't shy away from the reality that AI is being used in warfare.
Right.
And he even talks about the potential need for autonomous AI systems.
Okay, so this is where it gets really interesting.
It definitely does.
All right, let's dig in.
Let's do it.
Like he actually brings up the possibility of situations where human reaction times just aren't fast enough.
Yeah, he talks about things like defending against hypersonic missiles.
Right, where you need to make split-second decisions.
Exactly. And in those cases, he's saying that relying on AI might actually be the more responsible choice.
Because it could react faster than a human and potentially save lives.
Yeah, but then that brings up a whole other set of questions.
Right, like how do we ensure that these AI systems are actually making the right decisions?
But how do we build ethics into something as complex as an algorithm?
That's a huge challenge.
Yeah, it seems like it goes way beyond just the technical side of building the AI.
Yeah, it's almost like a whole new branch of philosophy is emerging.
focused on the ethics of autonomous systems.
Exactly. We're talking about really fundamental questions here.
Like, what does it even mean to be human?
And what values do we prioritize?
And how do we translate those values into something that a machine can understand?
It's mind-blowing when you think about it.
Totally. Like, we're potentially talking about machines making life or death decisions on the battlefield.
It's a lot of responsibility to hand over.
And Karp doesn't shy away from that. He uses the phrase "a completely different world" to describe where we're heading.
Yeah, it feels like we're on the cusp of something really big.
He also talks about the emergence of what he calls lethal and very competent adversaries.
So there's a sense of urgency in his words.
Definitely. But he seems confident that Palantir's approach can help us navigate this new reality.
With their focus on transparency and ethical frameworks.
Right. But even with the best intentions, how do you make sure that AI is used responsibly?
Yeah, not just by the US, but by everyone who's developing these technologies.
I mean, couldn't this lead to some kind of AI arms race?
Where everyone is scrambling to build the most powerful systems without thinking through the consequences.
Exactly. That's a scary thought.
It is. We need to be having conversations about this on a global level.
To prevent the worst case scenarios.
Right, like AI falling into the wrong hands.
Or leading to an increase in conflict.
It's something we need to be thinking about now.
Yeah, and it all comes back to Karp's point about transparency.
If we want to prevent AI from being used for harmful purposes, we need to shed light on how it's being developed.
And how it's being used.
Exactly. Palantir is trying to strike a balance between strength and transparency.
So it's like America's adversaries are deterred by our capabilities.
But at the same time, there's enough openness to build trust.
It's a delicate balance, for sure.
It's going to be a major challenge, not just for Palantir, but for everyone.
Yeah, it's something that's going to define global politics for decades to come.
And we all need to be engaged in this conversation.
Yeah, we can't just leave it to governments and tech companies.
We need to educate ourselves about AI and ask critical questions.
And demand accountability from those in power.
It's easy to feel overwhelmed by all of this.
But we can't afford to be passive observers.
The future of AI is being written right now.
And we all have a role to play in shaping it.
That's a powerful thought.
But before we get too deep into that...
Right, let's shift gears for a moment.
Okay, so let's try to bring this back to the listener.
Okay.
Like, what are the key takeaways from all of this for someone who maybe, isn't immersed in the world of tech and all this stuff?
Well, I think one thing that really stands out is how AI is no longer some distant concept.
Right.
It's really all around us, whether we realize it or not.
Yeah, it's not just science fiction anymore.
And as we've seen with Palantir, it's being applied to some really important things.
Yeah, so it's not just about making our smartphones fancier or our social media more addictive.
Exactly. It's about national security,
Right.
government efficiency. Like, these are big issues.
And Cub, he's painting this picture of a world with, these lethal and very competent adversaries.
Yeah, a completely different world, like you said.
And his answer seems to be this mix of strength and transparency.
Yeah, it's like a high-tech balancing act.
So instead of countries hiding in the shadows and trying to build the most powerful AI in secret,
He's pushing for a more open approach.
where everyone's at least on the same page about what these systems can do.
Yeah, and how they'll be used.
It's a pretty bold idea.
Definitely. And not everyone agrees with him.
But he seems to believe that this is the way to avoid conflict
And build trust.
and ultimately create a more peaceful world.
It's a big goal.
It is, and only time will tell if he's right.
Right.
But one thing's for sure, AI is going to shape our future in big ways.
No doubt about it.
And whether that future is good or bad really depends on the choices we make today.
We've talked about educating ourselves,
Yeah.
engaging in these tough conversations, holding people in power accountable
Right. But it all comes down to each of us making choices
about how we use this technology.
and what values we want to see reflected in it.
It's not just an abstract problem, it's something that affects us all right now.
So every time we click on something online, every interaction we have,
It's feeding these algorithms that are shaping the AI world.
and those algorithms are always learning and evolving,
Yeah.
it's kind of scary when you think about it.
It can be, but we can't ignore it.
Right. We have to be active in shaping this future.
Not just passive consumers.
Exactly. And AI has the potential to do amazing things.
To solve some of our biggest problems.
But it also has the potential to make things a lot worse.
Yeah, if it falls into the wrong hands.
Or if we use it for the wrong reason.
It's up to us to decide which path we take.
So as we wrap up this deep dive into Palantir and their AI ambitions, we leave you with this question.
Okay.
What role will you play in shaping the future of AI?